Ho wiped the sweat from his forehead as he walked through the crowded market of 7. The trading station smelled like oil, rust, and too many different species packed into one place. He hated coming here, but the outer rim paid better than the safe routes back in Federation space. A man had to eat, and his ship needed fuel. The market was loud. Vendors shouted in a dozen languages. Machines beeped and hissed. Somewhere in the distance, metal clanged against metal. Ho kept his head down and his hand near his blaster. This wasn't the kind of place where you made eye contact with strangers. He was heading toward the fuel depot when he heard it, a voice calling out numbers, then cheering, then more numbers higher this time. Ho's stomach turned. He knew that sound. He'd heard it once before, years ago, and it still gave him nightmares. An auction. He should have kept walking, should have minded his own business. That's how you survived in places like this. But his feet stopped moving. Against every bit of common sense he had, Ho turned toward the sound. The auction was being held in an open plaza. A stage had been set up, and on it stood creatures of all kinds. Some looked scared. Some looked angry. Most looked empty, like they'd given up long ago. They were slaves, and they were being sold like cargo. Ho's jaw tightened. Slavery was illegal in Federation space, but out here in the Outer Rim, the law was whatever the strongest person said it was. He hated it, hated everything about it. He was about to leave when someone new was brought onto the stage. She was different from the others. Her skin had a strange quality to it, like it could glow but wasn't. Patterns covered her arms and face, barely visible. Ho had seen her species before in books. They were called. They were supposed to shine with light, beautiful and bright. This woman barely had a flicker. Around her neck was a thick metal collar. Ho knew what that was too. A neural collar. It blocked telepathic abilities and made sure the wearer couldn't disobey. Looking at it made him feel sick. The woman's eyes were empty. She stood on the stage like a statue, not even looking at the crowd. 8 years, the auctioneer said. 8 years she'd been in service. Well-trained, obedient, good with languages and navigation. The alien running the auction was unnamed. He was huge, with gray skin and too many teeth. He laughed as he talked about the woman like she was a piece of furniture. The crowd laughed with him. Ho felt anger rise in his chest. It was a hot, familiar feeling. The same anger he'd felt when his sister Bora died in the war. The same anger at all the unfairness in the galaxy. The bidding started. Numbers flew back and forth. Ho watched the woman's face. She didn't react, didn't care. Why would she? It didn't matter who bought her. A chain was a chain. Then, for just a second, her eyes met his. There was something in that look. Not hope. She was too far gone for hope, but maybe recognition. Like she saw that he was human, and humans were supposed to be better than this. Supposed to care. The look said she knew that was a lie, but some small part of her wished it wasn't. Ho thought about Bora. His little sister had died protecting refugees during the war. She'd believed people were worth saving, even when it was dangerous, even when it cost everything. He'd called her foolish back then. Now she was gone, and he was still here, too scared to stand up for anything. The bidding was ending. A fat merchant with tentacles was about to win. He was laughing, already talking about what he'd make the woman do. Ho's hand shot up. 12,000 credits, he said. The plaza went quiet. Everyone turned to look at him. The merchant's face turned purple with anger, grinned, showing all those terrible teeth. 12,000. We have 12,000 from the human, the auctioneer shouted. The merchant bid higher. Ho bid higher than that. His heart was pounding. This was stupid. This was incredibly stupid. 12,000 was everything he had. Everything. If he spent it on this, he wouldn't be able to buy fuel, wouldn't be able to repair his ship, wouldn't be able to eat. But he kept bidding. The woman on the stage was looking at him now, really looking. There was confusion in her eyes, maybe the first real emotion he'd seen from her. 20,000 credits, Ho shouted. The merchant swore and waved a tentacle in disgust. He was done. The plaza was silent again. 20,000 credits was a fortune out here. It was insane. Sold bellowed to the crazy human. People laughed. Someone slapped Ho on the back, nearly knocking him over. He was shaking as he walked to the payment station. What had he just done? He just bought a slave. Actually bought another living being. The thought made him want to throw up. But no, he hadn't bought a slave, he'd bought a person's freedom. There was a difference. At least he hoped there was. The transaction took 20 minutes. Papers were signed. Credits transferred. Handed him a small device, the controller for the neural collar. Ho took it like it was a poisonous snake. "She's all yours, human," said, still grinning. "Enjoy your purchase, though I gotta say you paid way too much. Could had 3 slaves for that price." Ho didn't answer. He walked to the stage where the woman waited. 2 guards unhooked her chains and pushed her toward him. She stumbled but caught herself. Up close, he could see scars on her arms, old ones. Her bioluminescent patterns were almost completely dark. "Can you walk?" Ho asked. She nodded slowly. Her voice was rough, like she didn't use it much. "Yes." "Then follow me, and stay close. We're leaving this station as fast as possible." They walked through the market together. Ho kept checking over his shoulder. People might change their minds, might decide to take the woman back and keep his credits. It happened sometimes. His ship, the Morning Star, was docked at Bay 17. It wasn't much to look at. Just a small cargo hauler, old and patched in 100 places. But it was fast, and it was his. The woman stopped at the bottom of the ramp. She was staring at the ship like it was a trap. "It's okay," Ho said quietly. "I'm not going to hurt you." She looked at him with those empty eyes. "They all say that." The words hit him like a punch. Of course they did. Of course she'd been lied to before. Promised kindness and given cruelty instead. Why would she trust him? "You're right," Ho said. "You have no reason to believe me. But I'm asking you to anyway, just for now. Just until we're somewhere safe." She studied his face for a long moment. Then slowly she walked up the ramp and into his ship. Ho followed, sealing the door behind them. His hands were still shaking. He just spent everything he had on a stranger, on someone who didn't trust him and probably never would. His sister would have been proud. He felt like an idiot. But when he looked at the woman standing in his cargo bay, lost and scared and trying not to show it, he knew he'd do it again. Some things were worth being an idiot for. "My name is Ho," he said. "Welcome to the Morning Star." She didn't respond, just stood there waiting for whatever came next, waiting for the other shoe to drop, waiting for the kindness to end and the pain to begin again. Ho took a deep breath. This was going to be harder than he thought. The Morning Star shook as Ho pushed the engines to their limit. 7 was shrinking behind them, just a dot against the black of space. He'd filed his departure papers in record time, paying extra for immediate clearance. Every minute on that station was a minute could change his mind. Behind him in the cargo bay, the woman sat on a crate. She hadn't moved since they took off. Hadn't said a word. Just sat there with her hands in her lap, staring at nothing. Ho set the autopilot and went back to check on her. She tensed when he approached, and he stopped a few feet away, hands visible. "We're clear of the station," he said. "We should be safe for now." She nodded but didn't look at him. Ho pulled out the neural collar controller. The woman's eyes locked onto it immediately. Her whole body went rigid. He saw her hands start to shake before she clenched them into fists. "I'm going to destroy this," Ho said, holding up the controller. "But first I need to remove your collar. Is that okay?" She stared at him like he'd grown a second head. "Why?" "Because it's yours to control, not mine." "You bought me." "I bought your contract. That's not the same as owning you." Ho put the controller on a nearby table. "Look, I know you don't trust me, I get it. But that collar is hurting you. Let me take it off." The woman's hand went to her neck, fingers touching the metal. She'd worn it for so long, 8 years. Ho couldn't imagine what that felt like, to have your thoughts controlled, your abilities locked away, to be nothing but what someone else wanted you to be. If you take it off, she said slowly, I could hurt you, I could take your ship. You could try, Ho admitted, but you won't, you're not that kind of person. You don't know what kind of person I am. No, he agreed, but I'd like to find out, the real you, not the person that collar made you. She was quiet for a long time, then finally she nodded. Ho approached carefully. The collar had a digital lock keyed to the controller. He pressed the release sequence. There was a soft beep and the collar clicked open. The woman gasped. Her hands flew to her neck, pulling the collar away. It clattered to the floor. She stood up, stumbled, and fell to her knees. Her whole body was shaking. Are you okay? Ho reached for her, but she flinched away. Don't touch me, she said. Her voice was different now, stronger. Just don't. He backed away, giving her space. The woman stayed on her knees, breathing hard. Her bioluminescent pattern started to flicker, little pulses of dim light running across her skin. It was faint, but it was there. After a few minutes, she stood up on shaky legs. She looked at Ho with new eyes, eyes that could think again, feel again. What's your name? Ho asked gently. Ara, she said. Then she laughed, bitter and broken. I almost forgot. It's been so long since anyone asked. Ara, Ho repeated. That's a good name. She wrapped her arms around herself. What happens now? Now you rest. I'll show you to the crew quarters. There's a bed, a bathroom. The door locks from the inside. And then when we reach the next station, you can leave if you want, or you can stay, your choice. Ara's laugh was sharper this time. My choice? Do you have any idea how long it's been since I had a choice? I can guess. No, you can't. She looked at him with those newly aware eyes. You can't possibly understand what it's like, to be a thing instead of a person, to have thoughts and feelings and dreams and have all of them crushed because they don't matter, because you don't matter. Ho thought about his sister, about the war, about all the people who died because someone decided their lives didn't matter. Maybe you're right, but I'm trying to. Ara studied him. Why did you buy me? Because it was the right thing to do. That's a stupid reason to bankrupt yourself. Yeah, Ho said with a small smile. It really is. The ship's alarm blared. Ho ran to the cockpit. The sensors were screaming about incoming ships, 3 of them coming in fast. No, 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 Ho muttered, pulling up the display. He recognized the ship's signatures, people, bounty hunters. Ara appeared in the doorway. What's wrong? We've got company, must have sent them. Ho strapped into the pilot's seat. Hold on to something. The first ship opened fire. Blaster bolts streaked past the Morning Star. Ho yanked the controls, sending them into a spinning dive. The cargo bay rattled. Warning lights flashed across every console. They're trying to disable us, Ara said. She'd grabbed onto a support beam, her eyes wide. I noticed. Ho threw the ship into another turn. His cargo hauler wasn't built for combat. It was slow and clumsy compared to the hunter ships chasing them. Another blast hit their rear shields. The whole ship shuddered. Sparks flew from a panel near Ara's head. She ducked, covering her face. Shields at 30%. The computer announced in a calm voice that Ho really hated right now. He needed an edge, something to get them out of this. His eyes fell on the asteroid field ahead. It was dense, full of spinning rocks and debris, dangerous, possibly suicidal. Perfect. I'm going to do something really stupid, Ho said. Again, Ara asked. Despite everything, Ho laughed. He aimed the Morning Star straight into the asteroid field. The hunter ships followed. Big mistake. The smaller, more agile hunter craft should have had an advantage, but Ho knew his ship. Every rattle, every shake, every way it handled when pushed to the limit. He'd been flying the Morning Star for 5 years. He dove between 2 asteroids. One of the hunter ships tried to follow and clipped the edge of a rock. It spun out of control, crashing into another asteroid in a bright explosion. Two more, Ara called out. She'd moved to the co-pilot seat, watching the sensors without being asked. Ho wove through the field. The asteroids were coming faster now, bigger. His hands were slick with sweat on the controls. One wrong move and they'd be paced. A blast hit their port side. The ship lurched. More warning lights. The shield generator started making a horrible grinding sound. "Shield's failing," the computer said. "I know," Ho shouted at it. He saw his chance. A tunnel through the asteroids, narrow but clear. The morning star could fit, barely. The hunter ships were wider. He gunned the engines and shot into the tunnel. The walls blurred past, so close he could have touched them. Behind him, he heard the screech of metal on rock. One of the hunter ships had tried to follow and gotten stuck. The last ship was smarter. It went around, trying to cut them off on the other side. But Ara was ahead of them. "There," she said, pointing at the sensors. "That asteroid cluster, we can lose them there." Ho didn't question how she knew. He just turned the ship and followed her directions. She called out paths through the field, guiding him with perfect precision. Her mind was working again, freed from the collar. She could see patterns he couldn't. The last hunter ship couldn't keep up. It fired a few more desperate shots, then fell behind. Finally, it turned back. Ho flew for another hour before he felt safe enough to stop. He found a dead zone, a spot where the asteroids would hide their heat signature and cut the engines. The silence was deafening. "We're alive," Ara said. She sounded surprised. "We are," Ho agreed. His hands were shaking again. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving him exhausted. "You risked your life for me," she said quietly. "You barely know me and you almost died." "Yeah, well," Ho unbuckled his harness. "Told you, right thing to do. You're either the bravest person I've ever met or the most foolish. Can it be both?" Ara's patterns flickered again. This time it looked almost like a smile. "Maybe it can." She stood up and walked to the viewport. Space stretched out before them, endless and dark. "I don't remember the last time someone fought for me, actually fought, not just said pretty words, but risked something real." "Everyone deserves that," Ho said. "No," Ara turned to face him. "Most people don't get it. Most people like me, but thank you for being strange enough to try." Ho wanted to say something meaningful, something his sister would have said, but he was too tired, too shaken, so he just nodded. They stayed in that dead zone for 2 days, making repairs. Slowly, carefully, Ara started to trust him, started to believe that maybe, just maybe, her chains were really broken. 3 weeks passed. The morning star drifted through the outer rim, taking small cargo jobs to keep fuel in the tanks and food in the storage. Ho didn't mention that they were barely getting by, that he'd spent everything on Ara and now they were one bad day away from being stranded. Ara noticed anyway. She was smart, and now that her mind was her own again, she saw everything. "You're struggling," she said one evening. They were in the galley, eating protein paste that tasted like cardboard. "Because of me." Ho shrugged. "We're managing." "Barely." She pushed her food around with a spoon. "I could help. I know navigation. I know 6 languages. Before I was taken, I was a scholar. I studied stellar cartography." "You don't owe me anything, Ara." "I know," she said. "But maybe I want to. Maybe I'm tired of being useless." Ho looked at her. Over the past weeks, her patterns had started glowing brighter. Not much, but enough to see. Little pulses of soft blue light that moved across her skin when she was thinking. It was beautiful. "Okay," he said. "If you want to help, I won't say no. We could use someone good with maps. The outer rim is confusing as hell." The next morning, Ara took over the navigation systems. Ho watched her work. Her fingers flew across the controls, pulling up star charts and calculating routes he'd never seen before. Within an hour, she'd found a shipping lane that cut their travel time by 3 days. Where did you learn this? Ho asked. Lithos Prime. Her voice was soft. I spent 10 years at the archive studying ancient roots. The old explorers knew paths through space that most people have forgotten. You miss it, your world. Ara's light dimmed a little. Every day, but I can't go back. My family probably thinks I'm dead. 8 years is a long time, they'll have moved on. Or they're still looking for you. She shook her head. Better they think I'm dead, better than knowing what I became. Ho wanted to argue, but he understood. Some scars weren't visible. Some chains stayed even after the metal was removed. That night they talked for hours. Ho told her about his sister Bora, about how she died saving people she didn't know, about how he'd called her crazy for caring so much, and how he'd never forgive himself for that. She sounds brave, Ara said. She was braver than me. I don't know about that. You bought a slave with money you didn't have. That's pretty brave or crazy, still not sure which. Ho laughed. It felt good to laugh. He hadn't done much of that lately. Ara leaned back in her chair. Can I ask you something? Sure. Why humans? Why do your people always do this? Rush in to help when it's stupid, when it costs too much. My first master told me humans were weak because they cared about things that didn't matter. Maybe we are weak, Ho said, but I think it's the good kind of weak. The kind that says everyone matters, not just the strong. My sister believed that, died for it, and maybe I'm starting to believe it too. Ara's patterns glowed a little brighter. I like that, the good kind of weak. 2 days later, they took a job hauling medical supplies to a mining colony. It was supposed to be simple. Get in, drop off the cargo, get paid. But nothing was ever simple in the outer rim. They were approaching the colony when Ara suddenly went rigid, her eyes unfocused. The patterns on her skin blazed bright, brighter than Ho had ever seen them. Ara, what's wrong? She grabbed his arm. Turn around now, we need to leave. What, why? Pirates, 3 ships, they're waiting in ambush near the colony. Her voice was urgent. I can feel them, their minds, they're planning to rob us. Ho's hands moved to the controls. You can sense them, your telepathy. It's coming back, stronger than before. She was breathing hard. Please, Ho, trust me, we need to go. He didn't hesitate. He'd learned to trust Ara. Ho yanked the ship into a hard turn away from the colony. 10 seconds later, 3 pirate ships appeared exactly where Ara had said they'd be. They saw the Morning Star fleeing and gave chase. How did you know? Ho asked, pushing the engines harder. I felt their intentions, their greed. Ara was at the co-pilot station, her hands flying over the controls. Left, go left. Ho turned. A blast from the pirates missed them by meters. The chase was on. But this time was different. This time, they had an advantage. Ara could sense what the pirates were going to do before they did it. She warned Ho of every attack, every maneuver. They dodged and weaved through space like they were dancing. The pirates couldn't touch them. They fired again, and every time the Morning Star wasn't where they expected it to be. Ara was in the pirates' heads, reading their thoughts, feeling their frustration. They're going to split up, she said. Try to surround us. What should I do? She closed her eyes, her whole body glowing now. Head for that debris field, straight ahead, full speed. That's crazy, we'll be trapped. Trust me. Ho did, he'd bought her freedom on trust. He'd let her onto his ship on trust. What was a little more? He flew straight into the debris field. The pirates split up, coming at them from 3 sides. But Ara knew. She knew every move they'd make. She guided Ho through the debris with perfect precision, always 1 step ahead. The pirates weren't so lucky. One clipped a piece of debris and spun out. Another got tangled in old satellite cables. The third one gave up, turning away with a frustrated burst of speed. When they were finally clear, Ho let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. That was incredible. Ara slumped in her seat, exhausted. Her light was flickering now, fading from bright to dim. It takes a lot of energy. I can't do it for long. You saved us. You saved me first. She looked at him and there was something new in her eyes, something that hadn't been there before. I think we're even now. Ho smiled. I don't think it works that way. Maybe not. Ara's patterns pulsed with warm golden light. Ho had learned that meant happiness. But I'm glad I'm here, with you, on this ship. I never thought I'd say that again, that I was glad to be anywhere. They found a safe station to dock and rest. Over the next few days, Ara's abilities grew stronger. She could sense danger from further away, could read emotions in people they passed. It was like a part of her that had been sleeping was finally waking up. But with that power came fear. One night, Ho found her sitting in the cargo bay, staring at her hands. Her light was dim. "What's wrong?" he asked. "I'm scared," she admitted. "My abilities are coming back too fast. What if I can't control them? What if I hurt someone?" Ho sat down next to her. "You won't. You don't know that." "Yes, I do, because I know you, the real you, and the real you would never use your power to hurt people." Ara laughed, but it was sad. "You barely know me, Ho. We've been together for 3 weeks. Sometimes 3 weeks is enough." He put a hand on her shoulder. She didn't flinch this time. "You're not what they made you. You're not their slave or their weapon. You're Ara, scholar, navigator, someone who saved my life because she wanted to, not because she had to." She was quiet for a long time. Then her light started to glow again, soft blues and golds mixing together. "Thank you for seeing me, the real me." "Always." But their peace didn't last long. The next day, as they were preparing to leave the station, Ho got a message on his private channel. His blood ran cold when he read it. It was from the Crimson Chain, the biggest, most dangerous slave syndicate in the Outer Rim. They knew about Ara, knew Ho had taken valuable property from, and they wanted her back. The message was clear: return the woman or face consequences. Ho deleted the message and started pre-flight checks. "What was that?" Ara asked. "Nothing important," he lied, "just spam." But Ara's eyes narrowed. She was reading him now, reading the worry he was trying to hide. "Ho, what's wrong?" He sighed. There was no point hiding it. She'd figure it out anyway. "The Crimson Chain, they've put a bounty on us." Her light went out completely. "I need to leave. If I'm not with you, they'll stop hunting you." "No." "Ho, these people don't stop. They don't forgive. If I stay, you'll die." "Then I'll die." He looked at her. "I'm not giving you back, not to them, not to anyone. We'll figure this out." "How?" "I don't know yet, but we will, together." Ara stared at him. Her light flickered once, twice. Then it blazed bright, filling the whole cargo bay with soft blue radiance. For the first time since he'd met her, she was truly glowing. "You're insane," she said. "Yeah," Ho agreed, "but you already knew that." They left the station together, heading deeper into the Outer Rim. Behind them, the Crimson Chain was mobilizing. Ahead, the future was uncertain and dangerous. But for the first time in 8 years, Ara wasn't facing it alone. The mining colony of Dust Haven looked as miserable as its name suggested. Gray buildings sat on grayer rock under a hazy sky. Ho hated the place, but he needed to sell his cargo. They were running on empty again, and this was the only colony that would buy what he had. "I don't like this," Ara said. She stood in the cockpit, her patterns flickering nervously. "I'm sensing a lot of hostile minds, angry, violent." "It's a mining colony," Ho said. "Everyone here is angry about something. We'll be in and out in 2 hours." "That's what worries me." But they needed the money. Ho landed the Morning Star at the edge of the colony and started unloading his cargo. Machine parts mostly. Nothing valuable, but enough to keep them flying for another month. The buyer was a grizzled old human woman named Sook. She looked over the parts with a critical eye. "This is junk." "It's quality junk," Ho countered. "And it's all you're getting this far out in the rim." Suk snorted. Fine, 2,000 credits. 3,000. 2,500, and you throw in that power converter. Ho sighed. Deal. As Suk was transferring the credits, Ara suddenly grabbed Ho's arm. Her light went completely dark. We need to leave, now. What? Why? He's here, the one they sent. Her voice was shaking. I can feel him. He's wrong. His mind is full of pain and death. Who? The enforcer, the Crimson Chain's best hunter. Ara's nails dug into his arm. Ho, we can't fight him. No one fights him and wins. Before Ho could respond, the alarm started blaring across the colony. Red lights flashed. People started running, shouting warnings. Then the shooting started. A ship descended from the sky. It was sleek and black, covered in weapons. It landed in the center of the colony square with a thunderous boom. The cargo ramp lowered, and out stepped the most terrifying being Ho had ever seen. He was tall, over 7 feet, with 4 arms and skin like red stone. Horns curved from his head. His eyes glowed yellow. This was the Crimson Chain's top enforcer, a killer who'd never failed a job. In 2 of his hands he carried weapons. In the third, a neural collar. The 4th hand was empty, reaching out like it was already grabbing Ara. Ara of Lithos Prime, On's voice boomed across the colony. You are property of the Crimson Chain. Surrender and your human will live. Resist, and I will make him scream for days before he dies. Ho pulled out his blaster. It felt tiny and useless compared to the weapons On carried. Ara tried to push him toward the ship. Go, she said. Take off, leave me. Not a chance. Ho, you'll die. Then I'll die. He aimed his blaster at On. His hand was steady, but his heart was racing. I'm not letting him take you. Colonists were gathering now. They'd heard the commotion. Miners, traders, people just trying to survive. They saw his weapons, saw the neural collar. Most of them had seen collars before. Some had probably worn them. Suk stepped forward, a plasma rifle in her hands. This is our colony. We don't let slavers walk in here and take people. Stay out of this, old woman, On growled. This is chain business. Chain business ends where my colony begins. Suk aimed her rifle. Leave. Other colonists raised their weapons. 30, 40, 50 people, all pointing guns at On. It should have been intimidating. It should have made him back down. He laughed instead. Foolish, On said. He raised one of his weapons. Everything happened at once. On fired. Colonists fired back. Blaster bolts filled the air. Ho grabbed Ara and dove behind a cargo container. The whole colony erupted into chaos. But On was good, too good. He moved like liquid death, dodging shots that should have hit him. His return fire was precise. Colonists fell, screaming. The air smelled like burned flesh and ozone. We can't win this, Ho said. He was firing blindly, trying to give the colonists cover. There's too many of us and he's still winning. I know. Ara's eyes were wide. Her patterns were flickering wildly, blues and reds clashing. But if I surrender, he'll kill everyone anyway. That's what the chain does. They make examples. A blast hit near their cover. The container exploded, throwing them backward. Ho's head cracked against the ground. His vision swam. He tried to stand, but his legs wouldn't work right. On was walking toward them, slowly, savoring it. Around him, colonists were retreating. Too many were down, injured or dead. The fight was over. Brave, On said, looking down at Ho. Stupid but brave. I almost respect it. He aimed his weapon at Ho's head. Any last words, human? Ho tried to think of something meaningful, something his sister would have said, but all that came out was, go to hell. On's finger tightened on the trigger. Then Ara screamed. It wasn't a normal scream. It was something else, something primal. Every pattern on her body blazed with light so bright it hurt to look at. The air around her started to shimmer. She stood up and Ho could feel it. Power. Raw, overwhelming power. her telepathic abilities unleashed, no longer controlled, no longer hidden. All the pain, all the anger, all the fear from 8 years of slavery came pouring out at once. On stumbled back, dropping his weapon, his hands went to his head. What are you doing? Ara's eyes were glowing, connecting. Her mind reached out, not just to everyone. Every colonist, every injured person, everyone who'd stood up to fight. Ho felt it too, a presence in his mind, warm and fierce. Ara was linking them all together. Suddenly, Ho could feel what the colonists felt. Their pain, their determination, their refusal to let someone take another person away, and they could feel each other. A connection formed, stronger than words, stronger than fear. They stood together, all of them, as one. Unfired wildly, but the colonists were moving like a single organism now. They dodged together, fired together, advanced together. Linked by Ara's telepathy, they became unstoppable. Unbacked toward his ship, overwhelmed. He'd faced armies before, but never something like this. Never people unified in perfect harmony. "This isn't over," he snarled. "The chain will send others. You can't protect her forever." "Watch me," Ho said. On ship took off, fleeing into the sky. The moment he was gone, Ara collapsed. The light went out of her like a switch. Ho caught her before she hit the ground. "I've got you," he said. "I've got you." She looked up at him, exhausted. "I've never done that before. Connected so many minds at once. I didn't know I could." "You saved us all." "No," Ara smiled weakly. "We saved each other. That's what you taught me. We're stronger together." The colonists gathered around them. Sook knelt down, checking Ho's injuries. "You're both idiots," she said. "Taking on the Crimson Chain, but you're brave idiots. I respect that." "We need to leave," Ho said. "They'll send more, next time with an army." "Then leave," Sook said. "But know that you've got friends here. What you did standing up like that, it reminded us that we're not alone, that people are still worth fighting for." Others nodded. A young miner helped Ho to his feet. An old trader brought medical supplies for Ara. They'd stood together once. That meant something. Ho got Ara back to the Morning Star. She was barely conscious. He laid her in her quarters, covering her with a blanket. Her patterns were still dim, barely flickering. "Rest," he said. "You earned it." But he couldn't rest. His mind was racing. On had failed, but the Crimson Chain wouldn't stop. They'd send more hunters, more enforcers. Eventually, they'd send so many that even Ara's power wouldn't be enough. He sat in the cockpit, staring at the stars. His body ached. His head throbbed. But worst of all was the knowledge that this wouldn't end. As long as Ara was with him, they'd be hunted. But he wouldn't give her up, couldn't. She wasn't just a rescued slave anymore. She was his friend, his crew, his family. 3 days later, Ara woke up. She found Ho still in the cockpit, planning their next move. She sat down next to him without a word. They sat in silence for a while. Then Ara said, "I've been thinking." "About what?" "About running, about hiding, about spending the rest of our lives looking over our shoulders." Her patterns glowed softly. "And I've decided I'm done." "Done with what?" She turned to face him. "Done being prey, done letting them chase me, done being afraid." Her light grew brighter. "You showed me something, Ho. You showed me that one person can make a difference, that fighting back matters even when it seems hopeless." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I want to fight, not just for me, for all of them, all the people still in chains, all the ones who haven't found their Ho yet." Her eyes were fierce. "The Crimson Chain thinks they own people. I want to prove them wrong." Ho looked at her. This wasn't the broken woman he'd bought 3 months ago. This was someone new, someone strong. "That's dangerous," he said. "Probably suicidal." "I know," Ara smiled. "But isn't that the good kind of crazy, the kind that says everyone matters?" Ho laughed. It hurt his bruised ribs, but he didn't care. "Yeah, it is." "So what do we do?" "We stop running," Ho said, "and we start fighting back." 6 months changed everything. The Morning Star was different now. The cargo bay had been converted. Medical supplies lined one wall. Sleeping quarters for passengers filled another. What used to be a simple hauler was now something else. A ship of hope. A ship that freed people. Ho stood at the controls, older and harder than he'd been a year ago. Scars crossed his arms. His eyes had seen things that kept him awake at night, but he was still here, still fighting. Ara sat beside him, glowing with steady blue light. She wasn't the same woman from that auction stage. Her patterns were bright and confident. Her mind was sharp. She'd learned to control her abilities, using them to sense slavers from a distance, to connect with captives and plan escapes. Behind them stood their crew. Yang, a former soldier who'd left the military after seeing too much corruption. He was quiet but deadly, handling security with cold efficiency. Hei-Wan, a medic who'd lost her husband and daughter to slave raiders. She patched up the freed captives, treating injuries both physical and mental. And then there was Ra, a former slave herself. She was a fighter, trained in combat by her old masters and now using those skills to free others. She understood the captives in ways the others couldn't. She'd been where they were. Together, they'd run 12 missions, freed almost 300 people. The Crimson Chain was bleeding, losing valuable property and profits. They were angry, and angry slavers made mistakes. "Everyone ready?" Ho asked. The crew nodded. This was their biggest operation yet. Station Helix 9, the chain's main processing center in the sector. 200 captives were being held there, waiting to be sold across the galaxy. Among them, according to their intelligence, were 50, Ara's people. "We get one shot at this," Yang said. He was checking his weapons, methodical and calm. "If we fail, the chain will lock down every operation. We won't get another chance." "We won't fail," Ara said, her patterns pulsed with determination. "I can feel them, my people. They're scared, but they're alive. We can save them." Hei-Wan looked worried. 200 people is a lot to move. Even if we get them out, where do we take them? "I've got contacts," Ho said. "Safe houses across 3 systems. We split them up, get them to safety, and help them rebuild their lives." Ra smiled grimly, "Just like you did for all of us." The plan was simple but risky. Helix 9 was a fortress, protected by guards, automated defenses, and security systems. But Ho had learned a few things over the past months. The best way to break a fortress was from the inside. They had help. A maintenance worker on the station, a young man named Dong, who'd secretly been feeding them information. His sister had been taken by the chain 5 years ago. He wanted revenge as much as they wanted justice. Dong had planted explosives near the power core. When they detonated, it would cause a blackout. 15 minutes of darkness. That was all the time they'd have to get in, free the captives, and get out. The Morning Star approached Helix 9 disguised as a supply ship. They'd forged credentials, papers that said they were delivering food. The station guards didn't look too closely. Supply ships came and went all the time. They docked. Ho, Ara, and Ra stepped onto the station, trying to look casual. Yang and Hei-Wan stayed on the ship, ready to receive the freed captives. Inside, the station was cold and sterile. Guards walked the corridors, armed and alert. Ho could feel eyes on them everywhere. His hand stayed near his blaster. Ara closed her eyes, reaching out with her mind. "The holding cells are below us, 3 levels down. I can sense them, so much fear." They made their way through the station, following Dong's directions. The young man met them at a maintenance corridor, his hands shaking. "The explosives are set," he whispered. 10 minutes. Are you sure about this?" "No," Ho admitted, "but we're doing it anyway." Dong nodded and disappeared into the shadows. They moved quickly, reaching the lower levels. Guards were thicker here, watching the approaches to the holding cells. Then the lights went out. The explosives had detonated. Emergency lights flickered on, casting everything in red. Alarms blared. Guards started shouting, confused. "Go," Ho said. They ran. Ra took out the first guard with a quick strike, not killing but incapacitating. Ara used her telepathy to confuse the others, making them see threats that weren't there. Ho worked on the cell doors, overriding the locks with codes Dong had provided. The first cell opened. Inside, 20 people of various species huddled together. They looked terrified. "We're here to help," Ara said, her light glowing softly. "Follow us, we're getting you out." Some believed, others didn't. But when they saw Ho and his crew fighting the guards, risking their lives, they started to move. More cells opened, more people freed. The corridor filled with captives, all heading for the surface. Ho led them, fighting through guards who were starting to organize. Blaster bolts filled the air. Someone screamed. Hayone would have patience soon. They reached the sixth cell. Ara stopped. Her whole body was glowing now. "My people, they're in there." Ho opened the door. Inside, 50 stood in the darkness. When they saw Ara, their patterns started to glow. Recognition, relief, hope. One of them stepped forward, a young female, barely more than a child. "You're really here, we felt you, in our minds, calling to us." "I'm here," Ara said, "and I'm taking you home." But getting out was harder than getting in. The chain had reinforcements coming. More guards poured into the corridors. The firefight was intense. Yang's voice crackled over the comm. "Ho, we're getting swarmed up here. You need to hurry." 2 more minutes, Ho said. He was laying down, covering fire, letting the freed captives run past him. Ra was beside him, her weapon never stopping. A blast hit near Ho's head. He felt the heat, smelled burning metal, too close. They were getting overwhelmed. Then Ara did something incredible. She connected, not just to her crew, not just to the freed captives, to all the 50 minds joining with hers, their telepathic abilities linking together. The combined power was staggering. They reached out as one, touching the minds of every guard on the station, not to kill, not to hurt, just to show them what they were doing, to make them feel the pain they caused, to force them to see the captives as people, not property. Some guards dropped their weapons. Others fell to their knees, crying. A few kept fighting, too hardened to care, but enough stopped that it made a difference. The rescued captives reached the Morning Star. Hayone and Yang were getting them aboard as fast as possible. 200 people was a lot. The ship was packed, people crammed into every available space. Ho, Ara, and Ra were the last to board. Behind them, Helix 9 was chaos. The power was still out. Guards were confused. The chain's perfect system had broken. "Everyone on?" Ho asked. "Everyone," Hayone confirmed. "But we're way over capacity. This ship was not designed for this many people." "We'll make it work." Ho started the engines. The Morning Star shuddered, groaning under the weight. "Hold on. This is going to be rough." They lifted off. The station's defense systems were coming back online, but too slowly. The Morning Star was already clear of the docking bay. They punched into open space, free and clear. For a moment there was silence. Then someone started cheering. One person became two, two became 10. Soon the whole ship was celebrating. People laughing, crying, hugging strangers. After years in chains, they were free. Ara found Ho in the cockpit. She sat down beside him, glowing so brightly she lit up the whole room. "We did it," she said. "You did it," Ho corrected. "That thing with the guards, I've never seen anything like that. I couldn't have done it alone. It took all of us, all the working together." She looked at him. "You taught me that we're stronger together." Over the next week, they transported the freed captives to safe locations. Some went to refugee centers, others to colonies that welcomed them. They went to a settlement of their people on the outer rim, not Lithos Prime, but close enough. Ara walked with them through the settlement. She saw children playing, adults working, families, life. It reminded her of home. The young girl whose name was Ara hugged Ara. "Thank you for everything." "Be strong," Ara said. And if you can, help others like you were helped. That's how we change things, one person at a time. When she returned to the Morning Star, her crew was waiting. They looked tired, beaten up, but proud. "What now?" Yang asked. "The chain is going to be hunting us harder than ever." "Let them hunt," Ra said. "We've proven we can win." Heyone nodded. "I didn't leave medicine to run away. I left to fight." Ho looked at all of them, his crew, his family. A year ago he'd been a nobody, a cargo hauler trying to forget his pain. Now he was something else, someone who mattered. "We keep going," he said. "We free as many as we can. We hurt the chain wherever we find them. And we show the galaxy that slavery isn't acceptable. Not anywhere. Not ever." Ara stood beside him, her hand on his shoulder. Her light was brilliant, full of colors he'd never seen before. Joy, pride, love, all the emotions she'd thought she'd lost forever. "You know," she said, "when you bought me on 7, I thought you were the craziest person I'd ever met. And now I think you're the bravest," she smiled. "Thank you, Ho, for giving me my freedom, for showing me I could be strong again, for being my friend when I needed one most." "Thank you for trusting me," Ho said, "for believing that not everyone is bad, for fighting beside me." They stood together on the bridge, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, more people needed help, more chains needed breaking, more lives needed saving. The Morning Star's engines hummed to life. They set course for the next mission, the next fight, the next chance to prove that compassion was stronger than cruelty. Behind them, on 50 different worlds, people they'd freed were starting new lives, building families, finding hope. And they all remembered the ship called Morning Star and the crew who proved that freedom was worth fighting for. Ara's light blazed across the bridge, brighter than it had ever been. After 8 years in chains, she was finally, truly free, and she was using that freedom to free others. That was the most human thing of all.